Reflection and change. Okay. Always takes it a second. Okie dokie. You know, maybe maybe today we'll understand some things. I don't know. Uh, maybe a little challenging or whatever. I know as we go through this, it's very easy to be judgmental. I got my book up here, my drawing thing. Um, because I always wonder, what's going on in people's minds. I honestly do. What's important? What are the priorities? I guess what are the priorities? Because honestly, we live according to what's important to us. I mean, there's just no denying it. I mean, that's it. I look and I go back and I wonder. Well, I'm calling today. I would give you the title: Reflection and Change. Reflection and Change. This has kind of been on my mind for a couple of weeks. We went through it a little bit last week when I was talking to you about the real gospel. What is the gospel? It was an announcement. That's hard for us to get a hold of. It was an announcement of who the king is. There's a new king, new sheriff in town, what he's done and what he expects. That's hard for us to get a hold of. And it's hard for us to see it in today's society. We don't realize how much we are affected by culture. We're affected by politics. We're affected by all of these things. We don't realize how much. And it is hard, very hard, for us to think, I'll say, outside of the box, so to speak. And I know this. Hard for us to think outside of the box. And one thing is we don't like change. We go through change at work all the time. And you know what? We could argue, but honestly, things are easier now than they were 10 years ago, honestly. But when that change come, we didn't like it. I don't know why we can't do it the old way. Now I go to work in the morning, I get on the computer and I punch in a few numbers, and I've done put in my payroll, and I've did my other reports. Where before, you're sitting there right, and now, boom, boom. But, I didn't like, I want us to use a stinking computer. I mean, I don't know what this thing's coming to. Do you remember when cell phones come out? Who wants that? I mean, there'll be you don't even go to the bathroom without it now. I mean, I got to go to the fridge. Where's my phone? I mean, that's just the way it is. And honestly, and I'm sometimes when we just have a handful of people, which we're getting more and more and more to having a handful of people, I guess maybe in one sense I don't feel any pressure to try to perform. But I could just ask the question, and I know what kind of goes through people's mind, but, as a church, as a group of people, do we need to change? Are things different now than they were 50 years ago. And I know, people jump in, well, sin is sin. That's never, I'm not talking about that, guys. They're you know what I would love to do, honestly? And this is something I was going to say to the end of the meeting. I would love for us to go over there and sit down at those tables and talk. Just talk. It almost is like, well, we can't do that. That's not in a church setting because we got to have leaders and structure and all this other stuff. And you know what? Most people, they have a lot of questions, but they're afraid to ask them. And maybe I can show you why on our board here a little bit. Because, and then where are we going as a society? What is your, so much I want to say. I want to stretch it too thin. But like John, we've been going through the apocalypse on Wednesday night. And you know what I noticed about the apocalypse? When I did in our a show a while back, The Ashes of a Red Heifer, 2,000 some views. When I do the apocalypse, 14. Nobody cares. But now if I was to get up here and start talking about Israel and Palestine, the end of time and the rapture, put up a sign out there, revival, next Wednesday, we'll have revival from June 9th until September 27th. And I always think maybe, I don't know, I'm being silly here. Me and Tracy needs to get together and take pictures so when I go on, I can put me and Tracy together and guest speakers and get my hair all done up. I think about them things, and for me, there's a growth, and we would have to ask, do you think the church is growing? Do you think, and when I say the church, I mean the church, not us four people here, but the church as a whole. Where is it going? Is it being effective in the United States? I mean, honestly, is it being effective? What's going on here? I mean, the scriptures talk about the just shall live by faith, right? And hopefully when we were doing our Romans kind of study, we brought faith out maybe into a light that we could see faith from our side is more along the lines of trust and not an intellectual belief thing. The just, and do you know what there's a Hebrew word called righteousness. We think we know what it is in the New Testament, right? Righteousness, oh, I'm right with God. And that's okay. That's okay. But I wonder if there's more to it. Do you know what the Hebrew word for righteousness is and how it's translated this time many, many times in the Old Testament? Oh, and you'll love this. Guess what the Hebrew number is? Oh, you guys don't know what the Hebrew number is for? It is 6666. Wow. Of all the numbers they could have picked out for righteousness, it's the number 6666 in the Hebrew concordance. But you know what the word means is justice. Righteousness and justice mean the same thing. They're the same word. So bring that over into the Greek. Righteousness, which means justice, do justice. And I wonder when people will grow up and start to be concerned about justice. You understand? And I'm not saying this because of court cases in New York or anything. I'm talking about the oppressed. The oppressed. Again, we in America live in such luxury. We can do whatever we want, whenever we want. And I mean, come on. when I look at how people would walk to church, you know, when they would travel miles and miles and miles when it actually meant something, and we can get up and is it important? It's not important, you know. And I know, okay, well, sounds like he's fussing. Well, maybe a little bit. And this all kind of ties in with our Revelation study on the apocalypse. I hope everybody knows what apocalypse is. When I say apocalypse, I don't mean end of time. I mean revealing, pulling back the cover. You know, we pull back those covers right there. We'll reveal behind those curtains is a door. You and me, we don't know what's back there. Something's covered up, but when we pull it back, there's an apocalypse. There's a door. And I want to say this, maybe as we get into this just a little bit. Do you ever wonder why Jesus was unrecognizable to his own disciples on the road to Emmaus? Have you ever wondered that? And I know we could answer this question in many, many ways, but basically Jesus didn't want to be seen, right? I mean, he was hiding himself. He was disguising himself because that's the way God is, right? He doesn't really want to be seen. He doesn't really want to be known, so he hides himself, he cloaks himself, and he just shows up just at the moment when you did something wrong so he can say, I got you. I told you I'd come as a thief in the night. You're busted. Go to hell, popping and a cracking. Here's your gasoline underwear. Right? And we never really investigate, you know, why. Can I suggest to you that Jesus shows up in our lives in many, many, many ways, and we don't even know he's there. He speaks to us many, 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 many times, and we don't know who it is of whom speaks. He's unrecognizable. Why? Is it because he wants to be that way? Because we're not mature enough to know, honestly. And so as we go through the apocalypse, as we go through the book of Revelation, as we go through these books, there is one understanding, then there's another understanding, then there's another understanding, and then, you know what I mean? It just keeps on going and keeps on unfolding. The depths of it, all the depths, right? The depths. That means it's deeper than we've thought. You know, we look at scriptures, you know, Ezekiel, he come into waters that was to the ankles and then to the knees and then to the loins and then, you know, water to swim in. I wonder why that is. You know, the depths of it. Now, who really wants to go to the depths of it? And I'm going to show you why here. Okay? Because, and I know I got to get my writing tools out here. I got a whole box of weapons. A whole box of weapons. Huh. I need all these weapons. We'll start with this one. What I want to talk to you about today is, you know, I said reflection and change. I want to talk to you about 4 stages of growth. And, you know, I almost hate to use these words stages, but in reality, they're true. You guys, when you was born, you wasn't born an adult. You were whole. You had everything you needed. You had all your fingers and toes and brains and and livers and kidneys and hearts and stomachs and all that stuff. But there had to be a growth there, right? So 4 stages. And I want us to talk about these things just a little bit, because I promise you, no matter, and as you go through this, maybe I hope you'll be honest with yourself. Because I know what we always tend to do. We're going to be in the final stage. We always are, right? We're in the most mature stage ever. We're never in the other stages. But as we look at these things and try to, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, understand these things maybe. Maybe it'll make sense. I'm going to try to leave some room, maybe on the side. I don't know, but if you guys can't read my writing, that's your own fault. Okay, honestly, this won't be my fault. It'll be your fault. Okay, I'm not going to put up here stages or anything because I want to save room. But the stage 1, I'll save a little room over here. Stage 1 here is, I forgot what it was. I don't know if you guys can see that. Simplicity. Stage 1 is simplicity. Let me just write a few things down under that, and then maybe we can come back and talk about it a little bit. I got all kinds of things written down here. In this mindset, if you will, things are dualistic. Do you know what I mean? Us and them. Us and them. Also in this stage, dependent. Dependent. Moms, dads, pastors, elders, deacon, always needing somebody. Always. And in this stage is also authority focused. I hear things in Christian talk. If you can hear all these things, like, I know how to submit to authority. People used to tell, oh man, I know how to submit to authority until you tell me to do something I don't like. You know what I mean? Everybody's looking for some authority to submit to. And that's okay. And then also in this stage right here, here's the one big thing that we like. I hope you guys can see all this stuff. Is easy answers. Just tell me the easy. When somebody asks you a question and you think, well, there's 10 ways we can answer that question. No, I don't want that. Just give me the easy way. I don't want to have to use my brain to think much. Just give me the easy answer. Yeah, and listen, you guys have heard them. Is he going to heaven? Is he going to hell? Just let me know. I mean, I don't know. Did he say the right prayer before he died, didn't he? I don't know. Did he say the sinner's prayer? You know what? Everybody in the world that was born before Paul wrote Romans is going to hell. You guys aren't getting it. I'm telling you, honestly, everybody in the world is going to hell that lived before Paul wrote the book of Romans. Y'all know why that is? Come on, guys. Am I going to ring a bell here and wake you guys up? That's where the sinner's prayer is. I mean, come on. How could you be saved if you didn't say the sinner's prayer? Because that's the thing. And on the beaches of Normandy, the guy's right there. He's ready to die. And it's like, oh, no, you got to say this. Well, we'll just put a minus. We won't make a plus on your head. We'll just make a minus because you didn't say the whole thing. Now, I'm being silly here, but I mean, this is the way it is, right? We can't challenge anything. And then in this stage also, all is known or knowable. We can know everything, right? And I think, well, I mean, because, I have, I know some people, it doesn't matter what you ask, they got the answer. They got the answer. And it's really a simple answer. I mean, honestly, it's always going to be a simple answer because why? We're in simplicity. And the other characteristic of this stage right here is life is a war. We're always battling, always in a battle, fighting everything. You with me so far? I'm going to go over stage 2 here just real quick, and we'll go back and talk. So stage 2 here is complexity. So we just went from simplicity to complexity. Now, the first thing here is pragmatic. You know what pragmatic is? And listen, there is a lot of stuff, many books and stuff. But pragmatic, it means dealing with things sensibly, realistically. Let's get everything out of the heavens. And we're dealing with real life things here. Now, if in this simplicity stage we're dependent, what do you think we're going to be in complexity? We're going to start becoming independent. More and more and more and more and more, right? Now, if here we're authority focused, and when I mean authority focused, think in matters of the church and all of this, and we go to the preacher and he gives us the answer, and that's all of this, to give us everything. In this one, I'm going to be more, I need a coach. Coach focused. And over here, instead of easy answers, I want, just give me the steps and the techniques I need to do. Just give me the steps. And then all is known or knowable. All is done or doable. I know you get a lot of stuff going through your head. Now, here we got life as a war in this complexity. Life is a game. Everything's a game. Now, as we talk about these, I mean, Well, let me just give you the third stage. We'll write some stuff down here in a minute on this one. I know I wouldn't have enough room. Perplexity. Perplexity happens when the structures that we've built in simplicity and complexity don't work anymore. When it just ain't happening. Now, this simplicity is the stage that we're raised into when parents talk about raising us, raising kids. How many kids did you raise? Because actually, you're over here in the 0 stage, and this stage is infancy. I probably didn't spell that right. Infancy. So you come from infancy to simplicity. And it's important here because in simplicity, this child here, that's an infant, he doesn't know or she doesn't know what they can eat or what they can't eat. Kids think they can eat a rock. And you think, well, no. Because what happens when you get a little baby and they find a rock in the floor? Where's the first place it goes? And what do you say? No. They think they can eat whatever is in their hand. The first thing that they do with anything in their hand is it goes to their mouth. So in this simplicity, remember dualistic. You can eat this. Here's your Cheeto. You can't eat this. Let me get that rock. You can't eat that. That's a bug. So it's dualistic. Good, bad. In this stage right here, infancy and to simplicity, they don't know who's friend or enemy, do they? I mean, some babies will just go to anybody. And mommies and daddies have said, oh, no, that's friend, that's enemy, that's your papa, that's your mama, that's a stranger danger. We don't do that. Much of this stage in simplicity is learning the dualisms that are necessary for survival. These things are important. They're important. We need to learn what's good and what's poison. What's right and what's wrong, what's up and what's down. And in this stage here, children are dependent on authority. They're dependent on parents. They're dependent on whoever they yield that authority to, the preachers or whoever, right? I mean, they're dependent on that. It's authority focused. One of the things on this stage right here is, I think one of the biggest things is the us and the them. In groups, out groups. We are taught in this stage right here that always in this stage you're going to talk about we're the in group and they're the out group. We're the ones that are right, and if I'm right, that can only leave you being what? I mean, there's no other option, is it? If I'm in this simplicity, it's either right or wrong. There can be nothing else. And in this stage right here, we become very oriented towards belonging to the in group in relation to the authority figures who teach us the right dualisms. And so that's why, simplicity, guys, some of us came up in Primitive Baptist. That was the simplistic dualism that we learned. Some of you guys may have come up in Southern Baptist or Presbyterian or wherever that you came up with. But we start here and we go here. That's a natural course of action. It's the stage of easy answers. Right? Say this prayer, go to heaven. Don't say this prayer, go to hell. Pretty simple, right? live a good life, do all the right things, go to heaven. Try your best, go to heaven. Don't, go to hell. Simple, simple. How about the questions in this stage right here? Some of the questions that come up, and here's kind of how we do. Maybe you face these questions, maybe you haven't. How about free will and predestination? How do we deal with that? How about elect and non-elect? Who's in the church, who's not part of the church? You know, all of these maybe dualistic kind of thinking here. And you know what a good simplicity mindset thinker thinks? You know what I need to do? I need to read some more books. I need to study some more. And as soon as I'll have the answer, I'll come back and explain to you the right answers for predestination and free will. For elect and not elect, for chosen and non-chosen. What about resurrection? What kind of body is it going to be in the resurrection? We wonder, is it going to be flesh and bone? Is it some other kind of body? And you know, we read, oh, here it is, pow, this is it. There's got to be a simple answer. Because in simplicity, we're very oriented towards authority figures and very, very, very oriented towards in-groups and out-groups. And I know we think, well, we don't think that way. I promise you. In our culture, we think that way. You and I have never saw the world through a black family's life. Never. You can't do it. Truthfully, we've grown up in white privilege. Honestly, I'm just telling it like it is. And you think, well, maybe I never. We grew up in white privilege. Honestly. We've grew up as the most spoiled people who has ever walked the face of the earth. Now, I know we think, well, we don't like to hear those things, but that is the truth of the matter. And everybody who is not one of us is a who? A them. Can you not see how even our very governments and politics operate on wondering which level? Because right here in this dualistic, I'm going to have conservatives and liberals. I'm going to have Democrats and Republicans. I'm going to have good guys and bad guys. Right? And that's, where do you think the majority of Americans are at? I mean, honestly, if you can see these things, and often in this life, what do we see life as? Yeah. I mean, is there not wars going on all over? What's the Bible? Wars and rumors of wars. I wonder why we would make that statement. Because this is the only way this mindset thinks. We need troops. We need more tanks. We need more missiles. One of your greatest presidents said that. Ronald Reagan. We rule by power. Teddy Roosevelt. We rule. The stronger we are, the more peace we have. What is that? Right here. Our whole Cold War mentality. Right? And I know you're probably thinking, why is he talking about? We don't want to talk. Just tell us about Jesus. Guys, I'm telling you, the gospel is political. It's always political. It's always challenging. We can understand maybe how these things go and how they operate. Maybe it would help us just a little bit. In this level right here, we're always, if we're not fighting other people, I wonder who else we're fighting. Devils. Devils and angels. We're always fighting devils. Devils everywhere, right? Because in this, we're always fighting somebody or something. Now, if your mind is expansive here, maybe you're thinking of scriptures that would go along with some of this thinking right there. I mean, scriptures come to my mind. I'm just thinking, pow, pow, pow. But you know, we're going to find scriptures that go here, here, and this other level. And then, you know what's strange? Is some of the scriptures will go in all of them. I'm not trying to categorize scriptures here, but in this simplicity here, this hostile, oppositional nature goes along with simplicity because of this dualistic mind. I mean, do you understand? I always, I've heard people say, I grew up in a church. We were always fighting. Was that not, Kathy? Fighting in splits all over the place. And they said, well, that's the nature of Israel. That's they're warring people. Everybody that's in this is a warring people. Because it's us or them. I promise you, it's us or them. That's this dualistic mindset. And in simplicity, you find meaning by belonging in an in-group. You find your meaning by belonging in the Republicans or in the conservatives. In the liberals, in the Democrats. You find meaning in finding some group to belong to that is separate from all the other groups. I mean, our whole world is divided up into groups. Hey, you can be part of the union. You can be part of this group. You can have a ladies group, a guys group, a young kids group, a young conservatives group. Everything's a group. And what does that group say? Hey, we're on the in group, which means you're not. And that creates meaning in a world of simplicity. And you know what? How long do people stay in simplicity? Some of them stay in there their whole life. Some churches, many churches are here in simplicity. How long do they stay there? The whole life. You ever think of this? You ever think of the statement that Jesus made? You shall know the truth, and the truth will make you free. Free from what? Boy, that's a question, isn't it? Free from what? Many are very, very comfortable right here. Very, very comfortable. Not much challenge. Stay on the in group. I'll tell you what to think. I'll tell you what to believe. I'll write it down on a piece of paper. Somebody asks you this. Here, the flow chart. Follow down. Give them this verse. Easy peasy. Don't have to read your Bible. Don't have to study. Don't have to do nothing. I'll just write it down for you on a piece of paper. Here you go. When life challenges come at you, go through, page 3. Page 3 is life challenges. Oh, here's the verse. Read it. Challenge goes away. Wow, easy. Life is easy, right? Very comfortable there. One of the reasons we're very comfortable here is because I am right and you are wrong. Huh? I mean, And one of the things too is I already know everything. There's nothing more to learn. Which conclusion is I'm right. And you're wrong. It's kind of funny because a lot of the people I used to be around, that's kind of how they think. And when they would go listen to somebody else preach or teach, they would always kind of roll their eyes and they would say, "Oh, I just thank you, God, that we know everything. They don't know nothing. We just know it all." And then when you really look, and well, here we go. We're in simplicity. But there are certain things that drive us out of this stage. We most of the times get driven out, or maybe drawn out. It depends on how you want to look at it. But we get pushed, drawn out of that. And one of the things that we begin to do to come out of this stage is we begin to doubt. Now, I know that's a word you're not supposed to use, but we begin to doubt that our leaders are really as great as they say they are. Right? We begin to doubt that. You grow up under some preacher or teacher who you thought was absolutely the greatest, and then you find out something about him that shocked you, that just rocked your world, or you saw him just being mean to his wife and mistreating his kids, or maybe he had an affair, maybe he was a closet alcoholic, and you're like, wow, your whole world is rocked. You thought he walked on water. Now the good guys don't seem so good. And then maybe, here's the one thing that I always, one of the things that I realized, because, I grew up in a church, and the church I grew up in, everybody hugged all the time. It's you go to church, and there'd be 7 people there, you get hugged 35 times, because you got to hug everybody 7 times apiece before you come in. It's all right. But then you think, oh, this is love. And you know what? When you've never been anywhere else, you think this is love. And so your whole mindset is, oh, this is love. Well, nobody else can have it because we got it all. We know what love is. And then you go to another church. Maybe, I go with Tracy and I go over there to the church she was raised up in. You know what I find out? Wow, they hug you and love you too. This ain't right. I thought we had all the love. And then when people go to her church, their report is, wow, they sure love you a whole lot. Now this messes with you. I thought we had it. Now they got it. This is something that, you're something ain't right. And then maybe as you become, you go around this dualism more, and you begin around to see other people, you find out dualisms are different. Maybe in this church, nobody in their church can wear pants. Maybe you can wear them in your church, but this one we don't do that over here. And those ladies who do wear pants, you're one of them. So you find, wow, I was never raised with that, and I thought you had to do your hair this way and all of that. Well, you find out there's more. You began to be exposed to other cultures and other religions and other people. And then, what happens is your world now turns into complexity. It starts to be complex. You recognize there's many us's and many them's. And each of the us's always see everybody else as the thems. Now, what happens in stage 2 complexity is very dynamic. And when you think of these things, guys, I want to think of these things as rings on a tree. Maybe circles here. Okay. Now, if I can make that spin and y'all look at it real fast, then I can hypnotize you. But, like stage 1 here, simplicity. And then stage 2 here, complexity. And then stage 3 here, perplexity. We'll get to stage 4. But see, like rings on a tree. Like rings on a tree. So it's not like you lose dualism. It's here, right? It's not going away. And you know what? Dualism was important, right? Dualism was very, very important because you learn the difference between a peanut butter sandwich and a rock. Don't eat the rock. You can eat the peanut butter sandwich. You learn the difference between friends and enemies. You learn the difference between right and wrongs. And you learn the difference in this stage that telling lies is not good. We need to tell the truth. We learn the difference in this stage about all those things. Were they important? Absolutely they were important. This was a very necessary part. I want us to see that this is not somebody to be mocked and made fun of. This is absolutely necessary and important. It's the very heart of the matter, isn't it? But when we come over here and we come, doubt has kind of pushed us away, become pragmatic, because I want to learn how to negotiate a complex world. Our world is pretty complex, and when I'm saying these things, we live in a pretty quiet society, and when I say a quiet society, we live in small town USA. And you know what? The biggest thing that we don't want to change is our small town. And you know what? I'm all for it. I like small town life. But you know what? These things are coming. They're coming. They're coming. But in order to negotiate in a more complex world, you have to increasingly become independent from these authority figures. You're venturing out into a big world, trying to figure out things on your own. And now you become oriented towards coaches. They kind of teach you how to think on your own, solve problems on your own. Coaches who give you steps and techniques. In this one, you'll find a whole lot of these. Maybe you got some books, 5 Steps to a Good Marriage. 4 steps of how to be successful at work. 6 steps to having all your prayers answered. Whatever it is. And they'll use Bible verses and bring out all the things. Then you go step 1, 2, 3, and then pow, 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 we get it. Because we're trying, it's complexity. And then life is a game, so we're trying to figure out the rules of the game, how to play the rules of the game, right? And I know you're probably thinking, well, I'm not in any of these. Have you guys ever prayed and you're thinking, well, something's not happening. Maybe you didn't pray the right prayer. But here's the prayer you need to pray for healing. Here's the prayer you need to pray for prosperity. Here's the prayer you need. Oh, I didn't know that. My check bounced. I don't know. I needed to pray this prayer. Oh, I'm praying this prayer. Pow, boom. And I got it. Right? I need some steps. I need some coaches. And, I don't really want to be dependent on just coming over here. What do I need to do, coach? Okay, here's the prayer you need to pray. Go pray it. Pow. Everything is okay. In stage 1, I thought all was known or knowable. In stage 2, I might think all is done or doable. In other words, every problem that I face is fixable, right? Everything is solvable. So we shift from a war metaphor to a game metaphor. Many churches in stage 1, some have grown into stage 2. In stage 1, you're going to see a lot more of the small churches, isolated churches. In stage 2, you're going to see the mega churches. The mega church. Stage 1, we just Keep it simple. We got our 5 people. Here we go. We're guarding the door, and that's it. Over here, man, life is bigger. I need some coaching. Joel Osteen's a great coach, right? You know, all these them preachers down there in North Carolina can't even think who they are. They're great coaches. They're giving you life advice. Life advice. You remember, I don't remember it a whole lot, maybe you, when we had talked about it before, the Jesus movement. You know, now they got movies about it. In the 60s, in the 70s, John Wimber and all of that stuff going on. And in many ways, the charismatic movement was more this pragmatic approach, looking for experience, looking for methods. And this mega church phenomenon. And it's very often a stage 2 phenomenon. Again, 5 steps to a happy marriage, 3 steps to success at work. Drawing these things from the Bible. And in stage 2, people want to be learners. In stage 1, we know it all. No need to learn. Just reaffirm what we already know. We already know it. In stage 2, there's so much to learn. We start learning other books. And often in stage 2 complexity, we want to learn church history. Has anybody here ever studied church history? Do you care? And I ask these questions because, in stage 1, where I grew up, where we all grew up, you didn't really study church history. Who cares about Martin Luther? Who cares about John Calvin? Who cares about Origen or Augustus or Augustine? Who cares about them people, right? We don't care. They wasn't one of us. They was one of them. In stage 2, you often want to learn the backstory. How did the United States become the United States? I always wonder what really happened, honestly. I mean, do you ever think about, but listen, here, why do you call them Puritans who left England and came to America and landed at Plymouth Rock? Why did they do that? What's that? Religious freedom. So they left the Church of England and the King of England to come over here for religious freedom, right? Now, we celebrate Thanksgiving. Why do we celebrate Thanksgiving? Do I need to give all y'all a whiteboard and then y'all can write on it and then hold it up and I can read it out? See, that's why I wonder if we go over there, will anybody even talk? Why do we celebrate Thanksgiving? What is it? A celebration of what? Of harvest? There's more to it. The Lord provides. There's more to it. Freedom, but there's more to it. Who were the Indians? My God, the Indians. See, and it's almost like, my God, we forgot about the Indians because that's what we done because we're white privilege culture. Honestly, the Indians have no relevance. We're God's people. Indians get out of the way, but the first Thanksgivings that we did was a group dinner with the Indians because without the Indians, we would have all died. So we came over here because of religious persecution, and we think God has brought these people, and we have harvest, and we make it through the winter, and we celebrate a Thanksgiving with the Indians. What happened just not long after that? They become the them. We took everything that they had, made it ours. We tried to make them one of us. They could become Christians or die. And then we locked them away on some reservation, and so much so that now, even as a white culture, we forgot about them. That's what we do. So you see, they left persecution in England and come here to be what? Persecutors. Oh, but that's not us. We don't do that. We would have no part of that. We did. You see, now you start learning the backstory. Maybe everything ain't as simple as what you thought it was. You know what? A lot of people stay right here for the rest of their lives. You'll find probably 90% of all the people are here. One of these two stages. And they get along somewhat. Stage 1 and stage 2 people, they get along somewhat. There's some tension there. Stage 2 people, or, stage 1 people, they'll tell the stage 2 people, you guys aren't being strict enough. Right? We need more laws and rules. And, stage 2 people will tell the stage 1 people, well, you guys aren't being effective enough. We're more effective. You're about rule keeping. And, complexity works for these people. You know how long it works? Until it doesn't. Until it stops. Maybe in stage 1, you learn to pray in stage 1. Maybe in stage 2, you learn how to pray. You learn different methods of prayer. And then all of a sudden what? It just falls apart. Maybe sometimes you have a spiritual experience that wrecks your world. There's a book out there. You might have mentioned it, The Dark Night of the Soul. Have you guys ever heard of that book, The Dark Night of the Soul? You should check it out. I can't remember the writer of that, but The Dark Night of the Soul. I've got it. I've read it a time or two. It's on my computer, but I can't remember who wrote it. And, maybe it's an encounter with God, that changes everything. And, I'm not trying to put myself in any category. Remember, Lee rings here, but I can just remember the Lord speaking to me and wreck my whole world. It's like, why did you have to say that? You're fine. You're comfortable here in one of these two places. And then you come to me and you say I was never angry as you suppose. What? You just wrecked everything. I mean, I was comfortable with the God of wrath here. And I just knew when you do this, you get a whipping. This is plain and simple. And now you messed it all up. And and see, we're not supposed to have this doubt. We're taught in our world, right, don't have any doubt. Never have doubt, because all those who doubt will go to hell, right? Has anybody in here not doubted? But see, right here, we can become comfortable because we don't want to be challenged with any doubt. We just want to walk on the water. We make fun of Peter when he looked around and saw the boisterous waves, and he realized, what the heck am I doing out here? This ain't right. Peoples are supposed to be in the boat. Fishes are supposed to be in the water. So instead of being a fish out of water, he was the people out of boat. He needed some help. Dark Night of the Soul. You should check it out. But in other words, things stop working. This ain't working no more. You begin to have doubts. And this word again, James, I believe it was James, writes, a double-minded man is stable in all of his ways. He's unstable in all of his ways. So see, here, I'm stable in my ways. I know what's right, I know what's wrong. And then comes in this doubt. But really, this double-minded man, now you think about this. This double-minded man is not a doubting man. What is he? dualistic. I'm right, you're wrong. And he's unstable in all of his ways because, this guy's got it all figured out. He knows everything. Life is a war. But when things stop working, when doubt comes in, and then we get over here and we get comfortable, and then all of a sudden, this ain't working either, it moves us into perplexity. Getting into the third stage. And perplexity means the inability to deal with or to understand something complicated. It means you become confused, frustrated. When those other steps stop working, you look back. Have you ever been in this stage and looked back over here and said, was that guy using me? Was they just trying to sell? Have you ever went to church and at the end of the church and you're thinking, I loved that sermon, but was that guy just trying to sell me a book? Was he just trying to sell me a CD? I mean, am I only a $20 bill to this guy? Come on, have you guys never faced that? Was this guy selling me a line? Because you've gained a lot of experience here, working in different games and cultural settings, learning to play by different sets of rules, and you start to realize that everybody thinks they're right. Does anybody ever just get up and say, I'm wrong? And then you realize that everybody's viewpoint is just a view from a point. Everybody's viewpoint is just a view from a point, their point. If stage 1 was dependent and stage 2 is independent, stage 3 is counterdependent. Because now I'm looking back on my upbringing, on my culture, on my religion. In a sense, I'm defining myself against it. I find things unsatisfactory. I find things infuriating. I find things unjust. I mean, when you look back at these things, things that make me mad. I mean, honestly, I can remember being here and being in church and having a communion service. One of the pinnacles, the greatness, I love it. And then I can remember the elders saying, you can't participate in our communion service because you're not one of us. You're one of them. Imagine carrying the bread and the wine and scooting by somebody and saying, you can't take this, but here's for you. And at the time you think, this is right. But looking back, what happens? You think, how did I fall for that? How did I grow up thinking I am the church and all these other people are not? Those things, they aggravate you. They infuriate you, right? So now you become skeptical. And you know what happens in this stage? Your heroes change. Now your heroes start to become more people maybe who are rebels. People who challenge the status quo. Let me tell you one guy who would be in this guy right here. One person who would exemplify this whole category. His name, do I need to spell the last one? John Wayne. John Wayne is just right or wrong, isn't it? It's just black or white. Do this, punch you in the face. Do this, shoot you or hang you. That's it, John Wayne. If y'all remember, I was telling y'all a while back when I had that dream and Jesus and John Wayne, and I never could make heads or tail of it. I can tell you what it was. The Lord was showing me he's not John Wayne. Pretty simple. He's not John Wayne. Jesus is not John Wayne. And you know what? In order for us to think about Jesus in Western culture, America, Jesus is John Wayne. And I know we think, oh, we don't. I mean, Jesus is a conservative. He lives in small town USA. He don't like illegals. He loves Israel, and he's waiting on the rapture. You know, Jesus is waiting on the rapture. He knows what's right and what's wrong, and you know, I mean, honestly. But see, in this perplexity here, we become suspicious and begin to question everything. And when we begin to question, this is where revelation begins. Revelation begins here. You know, we're going through that Revelation. I don't know if you guys have been following along with Revelation, but I hope what you've seen is John is setting us up, and for what we think we're going to see, then pulling back the curtain to see something totally that we didn't expect to see. Now, stage 3 is very, very difficult. You know, somebody, Cindy was talking earlier, and I won't say who, but they was just saying that they work around somebody who's very judgmental, who's always just bitter. You ever wonder why? Because we've been here. Then we've been here. See, we always want to put these people up. These people are probably over here because everything in their life just ain't working no more. But we don't know where to go. We don't know what to do. So we're just hateful. We're just mean-spirited. We're just skeptical of everything. Everybody is mean. Everybody is trying to get over on me. It's just, you know, it ain't working no more. But see, we'll sit over here and we'll just call them all mean people. Well, see, they done been here. They done been here, and it ain't working. It ain't working. What's really, really hard right here is people who are here and they're a part of this church, what happens to them? There's no room for them in that church. There's no room for these people in either of these churches. Where else are they going to go? And you know what we call it when these people leave these churches? Backsliders. We say they're in sin. We say they're in rebellion. And you know what these people do? These people make villains out of these people. They make villains out of them. And many stay in perplexity. You know why? Because they don't know where to go. They sure ain't going here or here. They don't know anything's out here. I'm just going to the house. That's what they do. I hope this is making sense to you. I will tell you this, that there are a lot of younger people coming into this stage than we've ever seen before in our life. You go back generations, and it might be very few of the old and wise people would be here, but we're getting 20-year-olds that are here now. Honestly. 21, 22-year-olds right here. And you know what? They don't have any place to go. But you know, one of the things, I mean, in this right here, and I know we talk about laying our lives down one for another. I want to say this. You do realize that in this stage right here, you might lay your life down for one of your in-group, maybe. Over here, there's no need for sacrifice. We can figure it out and we can do it all. Over here, you're just kind of, you don't know what to do. And honestly, it's not until we get to stage 4, which is maybe I spelled that wrong. Harmony. Probably ain't no E in that, is it? Harmony. Right here is where we'll lay our lives down one for another. Honestly. It won't happen in none of these other places. And guys, how will the church know that you're the Lord's disciples? If you love one another, even as I have loved you, and he gave himself. So the world looks out here at the churches that are stuck here, been here for 2,000 years. Some of them has graduated here in the 1960s and 70s. I mean, think about it. 2,000 years, 90% of all church people are here. And a world looking in who is here, do you think these people are going to come here or there? They got nothing to offer. Been there, got the t-shirt. What brings us out of this again is doubt. When we've had enough, brings us into harmony. And one thing here about harmony is, I use this word, wholeness. I could use this word. You know why I say that? And because when people begin to realize, do you know, I'll just give you an example. Let's say there's a church right across the street here. And let's say that church, they got a whatever, and they fell and closed the doors. And you know what most churches think? Good, we didn't like that guy anyway. They were preaching false doctrine. But do you know when they fell, we fell? Because we're connected. Do you guys believe that we're all connected? We're all connected. And you would think, I mean, how would Paul say this? No male, no female, no Jew, no Greek, bond, Scythian, we're all one. But you'll say, well, in Christ. So I will ask you this, who's not in Christ? Well, you didn't say the magic words to get in there. Well, you didn't say the magic words either. When Christ died, how many died? All died. Listen, the gospel is an announcement, right? Something happened. There's a new sheriff in town. Whether you like the king or whether you don't, he's still the king. And this happened. Here's what's expected of you. This is who he is. This is the gospel. This is the way it is. So when you come here, you find out, guys, we're all connected. The Palestinians were connected. Israel and Palestine are connected. Almost the same. Paul says, nobody ever hated his own flesh. But yet we can hate our own flesh. You know, out of one blood, how many nations did God make? Did God say, hey, you know what, all the A negative people over here, all the A positive blood people over here? Out of one blood, he made all nations, all connected. But yet, when we're over here, we see this dualism. Us, them, black, white, Jews, Muslims, Christians, Russians, Chinese, Americans, all here. But when you get here, wow. Harmony. Non-dual thinking. We learn to see things as whole. We learn to see things as interdependent. You understand what I mean? All things connected. We just don't go out there and I mean, I see the birds in my garden scratching around. What are they looking for? They're looking for the worms. And what do the worms do for my garden? I mean, do I go through and pick out all the worms? I can promise you if I do, I ain't going to have no garden. And what about the bees? I mean, do we need the bees? And we need all of these things, right? And then all of these things, see, it becomes out of the church world and becomes in our society too, because what happens if we take all of our drinking water and we destroy it? We just think, well, that can't happen. There's so much drinking water. We'll just have drinking water forever. So it's okay if we dump all of our crap into the rivers. That's fine. Right? So see, we want a separation. All church, just tell me what, I got to do here. There's some steps and techniques. I don't want to see the whole bigger picture. I don't want to see how all these things are connected. Just don't want to see all of that. And one of the things that you do right here, in these other stages, you've been, especially here, you've been so angry at the authority figures. So angry. Maybe you love Trump and you hated Biden. Maybe you love Biden and you hate Trump, whatever. But in this stage, here you become so angry at authority figures. But you know what you do right here? You realize they're just people. As fallible as you and me. So you stop treating them as magical. And we don't hate them as being evil anymore. You see, guys, I'm telling you, saying these things in this kind of church won't do. Because this kind of church will make you pick a side. And if you go with the wrong side, you're out and you're a backslider. We begin to see that everything is connected, yet we all have our each identity. And in this stage, I begin to think that some things are knowable and a whole lot of things are unknowable. And it's okay. It's okay. I just go back and yeah, I mean, do you remember what Jesus told the guys when they were wondering, and we want some higher learning? What did he say? Consider the lilies, how they grow. Then he makes Solomon in all of his glory. See, we want to study Solomon in all of his glory, and Solomon in all of his glory was not arrayed as one of these. But what happens? What do we want to do? Do you guys pay any attention to the lilies? Do you guys, when you walk in out, do you see the flowers out there? And you think, my God, look at this lily right here. Look at these roses on this bush right here. Wow. Do you know if you're doing that, we're sort of following the instructions of Jesus? Because we want to hurry and pass by those things to come in and hear some deeper learning when he says, oh, no. You go back outside and consider the lilies. And there's a bunch of lilies out there. They're tiger lilies. Isn't that crazy? Here, life is a gift. And the point of the whole matter is love. And you find meaning in universal love and universal connection and this deep sense of connection with all things. You realize God is love. You realize God loves everyone, and I join God in God's love for everyone. This becomes the whole thing. Stage 1 has the most staying power. I mean, it really does. It just holds you right there. Stage 1. And because we're all raised there, anyway, and stage 1, an infancy in stage 1, because everything is, super dependent. Everything is about survival and security. I'm hungry, feed me. I don't care if you've worked all day, feed me. Happiness is a warm blanket and a full belly. And that always gives stage 1 the sense of importance, because you're just kind of stuck there. And again, don't think of these as successive stages, but rings of a tree. And each ring to be, all the other rings are included, and each one transcending the other, building upon it into new capacities. And then you know what comes next after this? Oh, this is going to get your goat. This is going to get your goat. What comes after this? It becomes your new simplicity. And you think, wow, how could this? Do you remember Peter? And he says, right now you go about doing all that you want to do, but when you get old, another will lead you and care for you. I mean, we see this naturally. So we start off here, right? Where do we end up if we live to a good ripe old age? We end up back over here, don't we? I mean, honestly, really. And then we begin again. And always in the Bible, things are cycles. They're always this way. I promise you, all of our thinking is linear, along the lines, but it's always this way. Always. Spring, summer, winter, fall. It's just circles. Passover, Pentecost, Tabernacles. Passover, Pentecost, Tabernacles. Always. We think long. We're American Greek mathematician thinkers. We don't think in biblical circular terms. We just really don't. And we're stuck. And you know what? If you think in biblical circular terms, you're wrong. Because I'm right. Now, in each of these stages, guess what they are? They're gatekeepers. Watchmen. Who controls the access to that space? And they have the power of inclusion and the power of rejection and warning and rewarding and punishment and even expelling people from that space. The great challenge for us is that people are raised in a community that nourishes them until they grow out of that stage. They grow out of the stage, until the gatekeepers can't tolerate them anymore, and then they're pushed out. And you know what we need? We need stage 4 communities, stage 4 churches where they can minister to all of these people, because these people are looking for somewhere, something to go. And if most of them are here, but we got a whole lot of people here, they don't know where to go. They don't know where to go. Now, I'm almost done. I just mentioned a couple things to you. Show of hands, how many people in here have read any books from C.S. Lewis? Did you like it? one of the things, Paul talks about the imagination. If you guys have read C.S. Lewis, Mere Christianity, Screwtape Letters, The Great Divorce, A Grief Observed. Mere Christianity and A Grief Observed, oh my God. Let me just say this. You know what these things do? They will help expand your imagination, because it's going to take a bigger imagination to go into each one of these places. They got to be stretched and worked. And, there are writers out there who just do that. They stretch your imagination and help you think in different ways. And here we are. I don't know if you study or look at or read other books of other people. Most of the time nowadays people are fixated on end of time, so we don't read other things of how to deal with grief. I brought these books. I'm not handing them out because these are mine. But, these things are just amazing. C.S. Lewis is just amazing. And I know, you can read these things and you can think, well, his belief is different than mine. See, you get over here and you say, well, who cares? Honestly. See, over here, it's all important. There is nothing else. You believe this, you go to heaven. You believe this, you go to hell. This is it. This is it. But when you get over here, you realize, wow, God is love. This thing is way, way, way bigger than what I thought. This is just not, and reading other people helps you. It's one thing, I'll say this, it's one thing that Americans don't do anymore is read. Americans don't read anymore. Maybe you got a few Bible verses you read a day, but other than that, to sit down in a good book and read that book and go, people don't read. Honestly, people don't read. And I can tell you this, readers have a bigger imagination than non-readers. I'll just say that. That's the truth of the matter. Readers. How many times do you ever see people who will say, yeah, I never saw the movie, but I read the book. And then when they go see the movie, they say, the book was so much better. But what do all the people do here? We wait on the stinking movie because we ain't got time for the book, because we're caught right here. Where is it? No, life is a war. You don't have time to read books when you're in a war, right? You don't have time for that. All right, let me just go over a couple things here. When I would look at these things here, simplicity, complexity, perplexity, harmony. And if I was to put up the word focus over here on the side of it, what is simplicity's focus? Right or wrong? What is complexity's focus? Success or failure? Wonder where the prosperity gospel is going to end up right here. If you guys had to put the prosperity gospel into one of these categories, which one would it be? Exactly right. Life is a game. It's winnable. We can be prosperous. Right here. So the people that was coming out of this stage, it seemed like all at once, could come right over here and pow. There's a lot of money to be made in complexity. Now, focus right here on this one. You're kind of on honest, authenticity. It's kind of what you're looking for right here, because you become skeptical because people aren't authentic. People ain't real, right? We want to be around real people. And then inclusion. Real quick, motive, pleasing authority, achieving goals, seeing through appearances, and finding connection. And I'll say this one. There's so much more. Well, to give you two. And if I was to say life is, in simplicity, life is a war. In complexity, life is a game. Or in perplexity, life is a joke. And in harmony, life is a gift. And here's the last one. Faith is, in simplicity, is a mental assent to required beliefs. This is it. In complexity, faith is a means to an end. If I got enough faith, I can get the car. If I got enough faith, I can get my healing, right? Faith is just a means to an end. In perplexity, faith is an obstacle to critical thinking. It's just an obstacle. And in harmony, faith is a humble, reverent openness to mystery that expresses itself through love. Let me give you one Bible verse here, if I can find it. Galatians chapter 5. I got to find this verse. Oh, chapter 5, verse 6. Can you put that up there, baby? And put it up there. Yeah, right there it is, NIV. For in Christ Jesus, neither circumcision nor uncircumcision. Where would we find circumcision and uncircumcision? Has any value. The only thing that counts is faith. The King James says, which worketh by love, but faith that expresses itself through love. That's the only thing that matters. Anyway, guys, I didn't mean to keep you all day. We'll get back into the Bible next week, but I just wanted to go through this with you because I'm telling you, it's very, very interesting to me when we begin to see these things and understand these things. You can kind of see where people are at. And here's one of the things that you do when you come over here is instead of looking back and putting all the people in these categories, you start reflecting on yourself. And instead of judging all of these people, you judge yourself. It's a big difference, guys. It's a big difference. But if you and we want to grow as a church, honestly, we have got to be here. Because you know what? These places here ain't for us no more. I mean, honest to God, they're not. But that's why you see the people where you do, and you can see the holds that they have on them. And you know what? When you look in our society and you see all of the stuff that's going on, what do you think is happening? God's shaken. Why? Because He's ticked off and He's mad? No, He's just bringing them here. That's how He does. Anyway, guys, I'll quit with that.